The year is 1876. In the dry, dust-choked town of Cedar Ridge, Texas, autumn has stripped the land bare, and the wind slices down the main street like a cold blade. The wooden storefronts, once symbols of promise and frontier enterprise, now stand weary, sun-bleached and brittle, their shutters rattling with every gust. On the warped steps of Miller's General Store, Mary Whitfield sits with her daughter Clara, no more than 7 years old. Their clothes, though neatly mended, are thin and faded from years of wear. Mary's hands, reddened and rough, cradle Clara's smaller ones, trying to protect her from both the cold air and the sharper truth of hunger. Clara's eyes drift toward the window display, a loaf of bread resting proudly on the sill. Her gaze clings to it, silent, pleading. Mary notices, but quickly turns her daughter's head away, unwilling to let longing take root. A mother's pride must be armor, even when her child is starving. The people of Cedar Ridge pass by. Some avert their eyes. Others whisper just loud enough for Mary to hear, "Her man died owing more than he owned." Best not get tangled with her troubles. Mary lowers her gaze, her face a mask of restraint. She has already knocked on doors, already asked for laundry work, for sewing, for even the smallest chance to earn bread. Each time the answer was the same: silence, or worse, suspicion. Psychologists today describe this kind of experience as social death, where a person is physically alive but stripped of recognition, dignity, and opportunity. In the 19th century frontier, that death could be just as brutal as a bullet. Still, Mary shields Clara with quiet dignity. She forces a small smile when her daughter looks up, as though hunger were only a passing shadow. Inwardly, she repeats the words she told herself the night her husband died: "I will not break, not while she still has me." The town itself feels complicit in their suffering, its silence pressing in like a weight. Dust swirls around their skirts. The sun dips lower, and yet Mary does not rise. She waits because waiting is all she has left. But fate has a way of walking into silence when hope has long gone. And today, it will arrive on horseback, carrying both danger and a proposal that could change everything. Ethan Cole arrives, a stranger with an offer. The sound comes first, the rhythmic clop of hooves on dry earth, a steady beat that cuts through Cedar Ridge's silence. Heads turn and dust rises as a rider approaches, tall in the saddle, posture straight despite the weary slump of a man long acquainted with hardship. This is Ethan Cole, rancher and widower, owner of the Double C Ranch, some 10 miles west of town. His eyes, shaded beneath the brim of a sweat-darkened hat, are the kind that do not look for beauty, but for honesty. His hands, rough and scarred, tell stories of years carving survival out of unforgiving land. He ties his bay horse outside Miller's, removes his hat, and steps into the store. But before he disappears through the swinging doors, his gaze lingers on the steps, on Mary, on Clara. The image sears itself into him, a proud woman trying to look unbroken, a child too thin for her years. He recognizes something he knows too well: loneliness cloaked in defiance. Inside, the whispers begin before he speaks a word. She's been turned away by half the town. Her husband left debts nobody's willing to pay. Trouble follows her like dust. Ethan says nothing. He buys flour, coffee, and kerosene. But when he emerges, bags in hand, he doesn't pass them by. He stops. Mary stiffens, pulling Clara slightly behind her. Survival has taught her that attention from men can bring as much danger as mercy. Ethan clears his throat. His voice is low, steady, stripped of ornament. "Ma'am, looks like you could use some help." Mary's chin rises instantly, pride flashing sharper than hunger. "We don't take charity." Ethan studies her for a long moment. There's no pity in his gaze, only calculation, as if weighing not her weakness, but her strength. Finally, he speaks. "I'm not offering charity. I'm offering a home." The words hang in the dry air, heavier than any insult she has endured all week. Mary stares, caught between disbelief and suspicion. Clara peers up, eyes wide, clutching her mother's hand tighter. Here, in a dusty Texas street, a stranger lays before her the most dangerous gift of all, a choice, a shared meal, a flicker of hope. Mary does not answer Ethan immediately. The words, a home, coil in her mind, carrying both salvation and a shadow she cannot yet name. She grips Clara's hand tighter, as though the very act of holding her daughter might anchor her against this stranger's offer. Ethan reaches into his coat and draws out a few silver coins. He doesn't hold them out with pity, but with quiet insistence. "Get your girl something to eat," he says. Mary opens her mouth to refuse. Pride pushes against her lips, but Clara's small fingers tug at her sleeve, her eyes fixed on the bakery stall across the street where golden bread still steams in the evening air. Mary swallows her refusal. Slowly she accepts the coins, her hands trembling, not from weakness, but from the violence of a mother forced to bend her pride for her child. Minutes later, the two sit at a rough wooden table inside the bakery. The smell of warm bread fills the room, sharp and almost intoxicating. Clara takes the first bite with trembling hands, her face softening as warmth floods her belly. She lets out a small sigh, a sound so innocent, so grateful, that Mary's throat tightens. Mary eats more slowly, her eyes on her daughter rather than her own plate. Each chew is heavy with memory. Nights of going without, days of silent prayers unanswered. Tonight, for the first time in weeks, she feels something loosen inside her chest. Psychologists at the Harvard School of Public Health have shown how food insecurity erodes not only the body but also hope itself. Hunger narrows the world to survival. A single meal, though, can restore the imagination of tomorrow. And tonight, as Clara eats, Mary dares to imagine that tomorrow might not be as cruel as yesterday. Ethan doesn't join them. He waits outside, leaning against the hitching post, eyes scanning the street. To him, this is not charity. It's a test. He watches to see if Mary accepts nourishment for her daughter, if she carries herself with quiet resolve rather than desperation. He sees in her the kind of strength a man cannot buy with gold, only earn with trust. When Mary and Clara step outside again, a different kind of silence lingers between them. The hunger has eased, but something else has taken its place. The faint, dangerous flicker of hope. But hope, in the Wild West, was always fragile, and tomorrow's road would test whether it could survive beyond a single meal. The journey to Double C Ranch. The decision is not spoken in haste. Mary spends the evening weighing silence against hunger, dignity against survival. When dawn creeps over Cedar Ridge, the pale gold light finds her standing beside Ethan's horse, Clara's small hand wrapped in hers. Her chin is lifted, but her eyes betray the cost of her choice. Ethan does not gloat. He simply nods, lifting Clara first onto the wagon seat, then Mary. The horses start forward, hooves beating a steady rhythm as the town falls behind them. The road west is long and unkind. Dust rises in choking swirls, mesquite thorns claw at the trail, and the endless sky weighs heavy above. Yet in this emptiness, something fragile takes shape. Conversation. Ethan breaks it first. My wife, Margaret. Been gone near 4 years now. Left me with Sarah. She's 9. Spirited, headstrong. Mary listens. The name Margaret hanging like a ghost between them. She hears no romance in his voice, only the flat cadence of a man who has buried too much to waste words. Clara leans against her, eyes drifting toward sleep. Mary strokes her daughter's hair, then glances at Ethan. You're not afraid of marrying a stranger? Ethan keeps his gaze on the horizon. I'm more afraid of raising a girl alone. Ranch needs more than my hands. Sarah needs more than my rules. His honesty unsettles her. There is no flattery, no sweetened promise, only truth. In its bluntness, she senses something she can trust. The landscape mirrors the tension. The prairie stretches wide, dotted with brittle grasses, and the skeletal remains of trees burned by summer lightning. Beauty and desolation coexist here, as they must in those who survive it. In Mary's silence, her mind drifts to a line she once overheard in church, though she cannot recall the preacher's name. Love is not in the fire of passion, but in the endurance of duty. She wonders if that is what Ethan is offering, not fire, but shelter. As the sun dips low, the first outlines of the Double C Ranch rise in the distance. A solid, unpretentious homestead, its timbers weathered but strong. Smoke curls from the chimney, promising warmth. Mary exhales. It is not romance that stirs in her chest, but something steadier, more dangerous. A fragile, cautious optimism, the possibility of belonging. But the question lingers. Can a stranger's house truly become a home? Or will it be another prison dressed in wood and stone? First impressions meeting Sarah and the ranch. The wagon rattles through the final stretch of dry pasture before the Double C Ranch comes fully into view. To Mary's surprise, it does not boast grand fences or ornate porches like the ranches she has glimpsed from afar. Instead, the house stands sturdy but modest. Clapboard walls weathered gray, the porch simple, the windows plain. Yet the sight of smoke curling from the chimney stirs something in her chest, the quiet suggestion of permanence. As they roll closer, the door opens and a girl bursts out. Sarah Cole, 9 years old, with braids loose and boots muddy from play. She runs to the wagon with the same unrestrained energy Clara once had before hardship dulled it. Sarah halts when she sees Mary and Clara. Her brown eyes flicker with suspicion, narrowing in the way only a child can when guarding something precious. "Who's she?" she demands, voice sharp. Ethan climbs down, his tone calm but firm. "Sarah, this is Mrs. Whitfield. And Clara. They'll be staying with us." Sarah's gaze drifts to Clara, who shifts nervously under the scrutiny. Then, unexpectedly, Sarah grins. "Do you like marbles?" Clara nods timidly. The girls exchange a smile, tentative but real, the kind of unspoken understanding only children can forge in an instant. For Mary, the sight is both a balm and a dagger. Balm because her daughter has found a companion, dagger because it roots her deeper into a choice she still questions. Inside the house, Mary notes its spareness. The rooms are clean but bare, the walls unadorned except for a single framed photograph on the mantel. A woman in a plain dress, gaze steady, expression soft. Margaret, the ghost of a life Mary can never replace. Ethan notices her glance. He does not flinch. She was a good woman. Strong. Held this place together, his voice drops. "I expect no one could do it the same. Only in their own way." Mary nods, silently grateful for his candor. His words acknowledge Margaret's memory without shackling Mary to it. Philosopher Simone Weil once wrote that to be rooted is perhaps the most important need of the human soul. Standing in this plain but steadfast home, Mary begins to sense what that might mean. But even as warmth stirs, the night will bring silence, and silence has a way of forcing choices the daylight allows us to postpone. A night of reflection and torn decisions. The house grows quiet after supper. The ranch hands have retired to the bunkhouse, and Sarah has fallen asleep with a doll clutched tight in her arms. The only sounds are the distant lowing of cattle and the restless wind rattling the shutters. Mary and Clara lie together on a straw-filled mattress in the small room Ethan has given them. The air smells faintly of wood smoke and tallow. Clara drifts into sleep quickly, her little body finally at ease after so many hungry nights. But Mary's eyes remain open, tracing the moonlight spilling through the cracks in the shutters. Her mind is a battlefield. Part of her whispers, "Here is safety, here is bread, here is warmth." Yet another part resists. At what cost? A stranger's hand, a stranger's law over your life. She remembers the sharp pain of closed doors back in Cedar Ridge, the townsfolk turning her away as though she carried plague. Here, she has been offered belonging, but belonging can be a trap too, gilded or not. The wind outside howls, a mirror of her own turmoil. She strokes Clara's hair, feeling the fragile bones beneath her skin, and the thought pierces her like a blade. What right do I have to choose pride when her survival hangs in the balance? Philosopher M. Scott Peck once wrote in The Road Less Traveled that love is not merely a feeling, but a deliberate act of will. Mary wonders if Ethan's blunt proposal is closer to that truth than the romantic notions she once dreamed of as a girl. Perhaps love on this frontier is not about poetry or longing glances, but about survival and the courage to stay. Her mind drifts to Margaret's photograph on the mantel. Did that woman once lie awake with the same doubts? Did she choose Ethan for love or for survival too? The question lingers unanswered in the silence. Mary finally closes her eyes, pulling Clara closer. Sleep does not come easily. When it does, it arrives heavy, weighted with fear and hope braided tightly together. In the quiet of that night, Mary's heart admits what her pride will not. Tomorrow must bring a decision, and once made, it will bind her fate forever. A day at the ranch, belonging takes root. Morning breaks with the sounds of the ranch already in motion. The crow of a rooster splits the dawn, followed by the steady creak of wagon wheels and the muffled voices of ranch hands beginning their work. The smell of bacon and biscuits drifts from the kitchen, warm and inviting, and for the first time in weeks, Mary wakes not to the ache of hunger, but to the promise of a meal already waiting. Clara stirs beside her, eyes bright with curiosity instead of fatigue. She races outside with Sarah, their laughter echoing across the yard as they chase each other through the dew-wet grass. The sound is foreign to Mary's ears, almost jarring, joy, unguarded and free. She lingers at the doorway, watching, as though afraid that if she steps too far forward, the vision might dissolve into dust. Inside the kitchen, Mary offers to help. Ethan nods, no protest, no insistence that she rest. He hands her a bowl of flour and asks her to knead dough. The act feels simple, almost holy. Her hands, so often trembling from worry, now press firmly into something that will nourish not only herself, but others. Later, she follows Sarah and Clara into the small garden behind the house. Rows of beans, corn, and squash stretch across the soil. The garden is modest but alive, tended with care. Mary kneels and pulls weeds, her fingers sinking into the dark earth. There is something healing in it, grounding, literally and figuratively. Modern studies have shown that gardening can ease the weight of trauma, restoring a sense of agency and calm. In this moment, Mary feels it. The dirt beneath her nails, the sun warming her back, the silent rhythm of life pushing forward. Ethan passes by with tools slung over his shoulder. The ranch hands tip their hats respectfully as he gives quiet instructions. Mary watches him, noticing how authority does not weigh on him like arrogance, but settles on him like second nature. He leads without spectacle, and the men follow because they trust him. For the first time, Mary feels the faint outline of something she thought she had lost forever, the possibility of belonging. Yet belonging is never without its shadows, and as night edges closer, those shadows will arrive in the form of men who remember debts Mary cannot pay. Shadows from the past return. The ranch settles into an evening rhythm. Lanterns glow softly in the windows. The smell of stew lingers in the air, and the children's laughter fades into yawns. For a brief moment, Mary allows herself to believe that life here might be different, steady, safe, almost gentle. But safety in the Wild West was always borrowed time. Just as dusk deepens, the thunder of hooves approaches. The sound is wrong. Not the steady rhythm of ranch hands, but the jagged clatter of riders who come with intent. Ethan steps onto the porch, hand instinctively brushing the butt of his revolver. 3 men dismount at the gate. Dust clings to their boots, their faces hard with cruelty long practiced. Mary sees them and feels her stomach lurch. She knows them. Her late husband's debts have finally ridden to collect. The tallest steps forward, spitting into the dirt. "Well, look here. Thought you could bury us along with your no-good husband, Mary. You owe, and we've come to take what's ours." Mary's voice falters, but she stands her ground. "There's nothing left. You know that," the man sneers. "Oh, there's always something left. A roof, a horse, a daughter." His eyes flick toward Clara, and Mary's body stiffens like iron. Before she can speak, Ethan's voice cuts through the night, calm but cold enough to slice through bone. "She's under my protection now. You'll get nothing here but trouble." The men laugh, but uneasily. The ranch hands emerge from the shadows, rifles slung, faces set. One by one, they form a silent line behind Ethan. What was once a lone man is now a wall of defiance. The intruders hesitate, weighing their odds. Finally, the leader spits again, this time with venom. "This ain't over, Cole. We'll be back. And when we do, you'll wish you'd stayed out of it." They mount their horses and ride off, leaving only dust and the echo of their threat behind. Mary's knees weaken, but she doesn't fall. Clara clings to her, Sarah watching with wide eyes. Ethan turns to Mary, his expression unreadable. "They'll be back," he says quietly, "and next time they won't come just to talk." The fragile peace has shattered, and now the choice Mary has avoided will demand an answer: survival through pride or survival through commitment. The proposal becomes urgent. The night after the rider's threat hangs heavy over the ranch, like a storm that refuses to break. Inside, the children sleep uneasily, while Mary sits awake at the kitchen table, fingers knotted together, staring at the wavering flame of a single lantern. Ethan enters quietly, setting his hat on the peg. He doesn't sit right away. Instead, he stands at the window, scanning the darkness outside. His posture is taut, as though expecting hoofbeats at any moment. Finally, he turns to face her. "They'll come back," he says flatly. "And when they do, they'll bring more men." Mary swallows, her voice thin. "I've dealt with them before. Maybe I can reason with them." Ethan shakes his head, jaw set. "Reason's not what they're after. They want power, they want fear, and they'll use both against you until you've got nothing left to give." The silence stretches between them, broken only by the wind rattling the shutters. Then Ethan says the words Mary both dreaded and expected. "Marry me, Mary. Not tomorrow, not in time, now. It's the only way I can give you and Clara legal protection. They'll think twice about laying hands on another man's wife." Mary stiffens. The proposal no longer feels like a gesture, but a line drawn in the dust. Her pride flares even now. Marriage isn't a shield, it's surrender. Ethan leans forward, voice low but steady. "No, it's survival, and sometimes survival takes more courage than running." His words cut deep. She knows he's right, but knowing does not ease the weight of choice. Pride has kept her alive this long. Pride has kept Clara fed, clothed, and safe, even in the face of humiliation. To surrender, it feels like death of another kind. Yet she remembers the threat in those men's eyes, the way one of them looked at Clara, and suddenly pride feels far smaller than the danger pressing at their door. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once wrote in Either Or that choice itself defines existence. Tonight, Mary understands this truth. Her decision will not only shape her life, but her daughter's, and perhaps Ethan's as well. She lowers her gaze, her voice trembling but resolute. "If I say yes, there's no going back." Ethan nods. That's the point. And in that charged silence, Mary feels the walls of fate closing in. Tomorrow, the world will know her as Mary Cole, not by passion but by necessity, acceptance, and the weight of choice. The morning sun rises red, a warning sky. The air is heavy, as if even the land itself anticipates a reckoning. Mary wakes early, her eyes hollow from a night of restless thought. Clara stirs beside her, blissfully unaware of the storm gathering beyond the ranch walls. She dresses in silence, smoothing her faded dress, braiding her hair with hands that tremble. She does not look in the mirror. Today is not about beauty, it is about resolve. When she enters the kitchen, Ethan is already there, sipping black coffee from a tin cup. He does not speak at first. He only studies her with the steady patience of a man who knows the weight of waiting. Finally, Mary breaks the silence. "I'll marry you." The words are quiet, almost fragile, but they land with the force of a hammer. Ethan sets the cup down slowly, as though sealing the moment. He nods once, not triumphant, not relieved, simply resolute. Clara, still rubbing the sleep from her eyes, looks up in confusion. "Mama?" Mary kneels, taking her daughter's hands. "It means we'll be safe, Clara. We'll stay here, with Mr. Cole, and we'll have a home." Her voice wavers, but she forces a smile because hope must sometimes be performed before it is felt. Later that afternoon, the preacher from town arrives at the ranch, summoned by Ethan at dawn. The ceremony is brief, conducted on the porch beneath the open sky. Sarah and Clara stand side by side, fidgeting, whispering in the language of children who don't yet grasp the gravity of the moment. The ranch hands watch respectfully from a distance. When the vows are spoken, Ethan's voice is firm, grounded, like a man reciting an oath to the land itself. Mary's voice trembles, but she does not falter. The ring he places on her finger is plain, worn, likely belonging once to Margaret. Yet on her hand it feels less like jewelry than a brand, a mark of both safety and surrender. Psychologists have observed in studies of trauma survivors that commitment, even when born of necessity, can become a foundation for resilience. Mary feels this truth in her bones as the final words are spoken. She is no longer alone. It is not romance that binds her now, but choice. And sometimes, choice is the most powerful form of love. A home forged in adversity. The days following the wedding move with a new rhythm. The ranch does not pause for vows or sentiment. Cattle still need tending, fences still need mending, and the kitchen fire must still be lit each dawn. Life demands motion, and in that motion, Mary begins to carve her place. She wakes before sunrise, rolling dough and stoking the stove, the sharp smell of wood smoke filling the kitchen. Sarah and Clara tumble in with their laughter, still adjusting to sisterhood. Ethan eats quietly at the head of the table, nodding his thanks, not expecting words but acknowledging effort. The simplicity of this ritual carries a strange comfort, a steady beat against the chaos that once defined Mary's life. Outside, she learns the rhythm of the land. She kneels in the garden, fingers deep in the soil, coaxing green shoots from the earth. Each sprout feels like a victory, a small defiance against the memory of hunger. She mends clothes, scrubs floors, and gradually reshapes the house with touches of care. A patch of embroidery here, a cleaned window pane there. It is no grand transformation, but slowly the space becomes less a memorial to Margaret and more a shared home. Ethan, for his part, treats her not as a guest, nor as a fragile thing to be pitied, but as an equal in labor. He consults her on meals, asks her thoughts on household matters, and trusts her judgment with Sarah as naturally as his own. There are no soft words, no romantic gestures, but in his quiet reliance, she feels something deeper: respect. Researchers writing in the Journal of Family Psychology, 2016, note that shared adversity often strengthens bonds more than fleeting passion ever could. Mary begins to sense this, that in Ethan's steady presence, she has found a partner, not a savior. At night, when the children sleep and the wind sighs against the walls, the silence between them is no longer sharp. It is companionable. They sit near the hearth, he carving wood, she sewing. both aware that survival has bound them closer than affection might have dared. Mary realizes then, this home is not forged by luck, nor by longing. It is forged in work, in resilience, in the unyielding choice to endure together. And sometimes that is the purest kind of love the frontier allows. A different kind of love. The prairie settles into evening quiet. The horizon burns gold before fading into deep violet, and the last of the cattle drift toward the creek. In the house, lanterns glow soft and steady. Sarah and Clara whisper secrets beneath their quilts, their laughter hushed by sleep. The sound carries down the hallway, a promise of innocence restored. Mary sits by the hearth, her sewing folded in her lap. Across from her, Ethan carves slowly at a block of cedar, the shavings falling like curled ribbons onto the floor. Neither speaks. They don't need to. The silence between them has changed. It no longer feels heavy with uncertainty, but full, settled, like soil ready for planting. Her gaze drifts to the mantel. The photograph of Margaret remains, her steady eyes watching from across time. But now Mary does not feel the sting of comparison. Instead, she feels kinship. Two women bound by the same land, the same man, and the same truth. Survival here was never a solitary act. Mary reflects on her journey, the hunger in Cedar Ridge, the pride that kept her upright even as doors closed, the fear of those who threatened to strip away what little she had left. And now, this, a home, a husband, a family stitched together not by fairy tales, but by necessity, respect, and choice. Irvin D. Yalom once wrote in Love's Executioner that the deepest bonds are often forged not in passion, but in shared suffering and mutual endurance. Mary understands that now. What she has with Ethan is not the love she dreamed of as a young girl, but perhaps it is something stronger, something steadier. She rises, checks once more on the children, and then returns to the hearth. Ethan looks up, their eyes meeting across the glow of the fire. No words pass, but the exchange carries its own vow, unspoken yet unbreakable. Outside, the wind sweeps across the ranch, rattling the windows but leaving the house unmoved. Like the Double C Ranch itself, their lives are weathered, scarred, but enduring. Tone softens into a poetic drop. And in that endurance lies their love, not born in roses or poetry, but in resilience. A love that belongs not to storybooks, but to the unforgiving Wild West, and to those who chose, against all odds, to endure together.